We hear from Londoners with family and friends in Iran on the widening conflict in the Middle East.
For the first time in the last 2 days, I feel like there's a chance I might see my friends, my family, and my country again.
Rather than uniting people, it will create a significant divisions among the communities.
And I'll be talking to one Iranian Londoner about the impact the war in Iran is having here in the capital.
Plus, our transport correspondent reports on the disruption in the skies for travellers. Hello and a warm welcome to the programme this Monday evening. We start, of course, with more on the widening conflict in the Middle East and the impact it's having on us here in the capital, especially Iranian communities, but also holidaymakers and travellers stuck trying to get home with hundreds of flights cancelled. More on that in a moment. First, we've been hearing from some Londoners desperate for news of their loved ones in the country since the war began this weekend. Aisha Baksh reports.
For decades, London has been a place of exile for people fleeing persecution in Iran. Many of them have made this area of North London their home. And over the weekend, the Finchley Road saw hundreds of people openly celebrate the US and Israeli attacks on the Iranian regime. What type of program did you work on?
It was something like Loose Women. But in Farsi, so it was we were women rights activists, children's rights activists, LGBTQ rights activists. So whoever that didn't have a voice will try to be a voice of it.
Bahare Golzari once worked for a progressive Iranian TV station based in London. She says she's cautiously optimistic about what's happening in Iran.
For the past 8 years, because of my involvement in Manato TV, I couldn't even dream or hope of seeing Iran one more time. I just have cut all hope. I didn't even think of it. I didn't dare to dream that I'll see that country one more time. And for the first time in the last 2 days, I feel like there's a chance I might see my friends, my family, and my country again.
But many here were reluctant to speak on camera, fearful of the impact on themselves and their families. This man told us he had to leave Iran after a member of his family was executed because of their pro-democracy views.
It's a very good news. It's a concern about after that, because they have their militia and they have no mercy on people, nothing.
We have to wait and see how it's going to develop. I mean, quite clearly, as is the case with many of such military intervention, rather than uniting people, it will create a significant divisions among the communities that exist. So already there are significant divisions within Iranian communities living in London. There is also a possibility, since this is the Middle East that we're talking about, significant backlash against Muslim communities in the UK.
Well, what's happening in Iran and the wider region is, of course, deeply troubling for many communities in London. And the Met Police have told us that they are increasing their engagement with different Iranian groups and also stepping up patrols around key sites within the many different communities affected by the conflict in the Middle East. Aisha Baksh, BBC London.
We know this is an anxious time for many Londoners with Iranian heritage awaiting news about family and friends. Well, my colleague Victoria is in central London with a restaurant owner. Over to you, Vic.
Riz, I am. This is a Persian restaurant in central London at Naroon. It's actually closed this evening after a really busy weekend. There's around 44,000 Iranian Londoners, according to the last census, and it is, of course, a really worrying time for a lot of them. But let's speak to the co-owner here, Reza. It is, isn't it, terribly difficult for you and your community?
I mean, for everyone, I think it's the uncertainty. I think everyone's super anxious because, you know, everything is happening. It was a surprise attack, and I think we're not getting the information that we'd like to be getting. So I think everyone just doesn't know what's happening.
Have you managed to make contact with any friends and family? Because you have still got a lot of friends and family in Iran, haven't you? Have you managed to speak to any of them since the event started on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, so that's probably the most difficult part, not just for myself, but for all other Iranians here as well. You know, there's a lot of internet blackout, and they're stopping the calls coming through. Of course, I think as Iranians, we're kind of used to this. I mean, most recently in the protests, they cut out the internet as well. But, I think Iranians are a little bit tech savvy here. They're jumping on the VPNs. I was getting a couple of calls from Eastern Europe the other day, and I was wondering what that was from like Estonia and Latvia. And I picked it up, and it was my cousin, just to call me to say that she was all right via VPN. So we're able to get a couple of words in, but it's not the full thing that we want to actually really catch up with them and see how they are.
But you're not getting the impression that this is something that people there were actually expecting necessarily?
I mean, I think that there was, there was a lot of talk about it that we saw in the media from Trump and from Netanyahu, but I think ultimately when it did happen, it was a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of us had thought, no, they won't be getting involved. And then when the attacks happened, I think it caught a lot of people off guard. And is it fair to say that news is sort of travelling fast in London's Iranian community? Or is it more questions? I think there's so many things that, everyone's on group chats and so on that you see online as well. News, but also not the most accurate news. So there's a lot of hearsay. You hear a bunch of things and you can't have it verified. You don't know for sure if it's the truth or not. So I think this is another thing that's just making everyone a lot more anxious. I'm sorry, I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this evening. As you hear, it's really, really worrying time, and it's just the lack of information, or certainly information that is verified, that is very hard to get out of Iran at the moment. Back to you.
OK, Vic, to you both, thank you. As we heard, they're an anxious time for many Londoners here in the capital and also around the globe trying to get back home. As we've been hearing, the Prime Minister says the government is looking at all options to ensure people stuck in the Middle East can return home as swiftly and safely as possible. It comes as this afternoon a limited number of flights have been announced out of Gulf states. But the disruption for air travellers continues, leaving many Londoners stuck. Here's our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards.
An empty Heathrow and the worst disruption to air travel since the pandemic. This was Dubai Airport after it was hit by a drone, and a reminder that the closure of a very busy international hub airport has widespread implications for travellers. Joe is from Surrey and stuck in Dubai.
It's a strange, surreal time at the moment. We're all, everybody's a bit nervous, a little bit on edge. We've heard a couple of explosions in the last hour. We're just trying to stay on top of all the information, make sure that we're all connected to Wi-Fi and everything, make sure we're getting all the information we need.
Steve Rudderham and his wife are stuck in the region on their way to the Maldives. They've witnessed missiles over their hotel and have been told not to go outside.
We were due to fly out on the 1st, and then that got pushed to the 2nd. That got cancelled again, and then we're just trying on the 3rd. So at the moment, it's more of a 24-hour rolling plan that we have. Ultimately, if we get closer to the weekend, we'll have to start making plans to fly directly home from Doha and kind of skip the vacation, unfortunately.
Alistair and his fiancée Libby are in Sri Lanka and stuck in their hotel.
We're in a hotel, so we're better off than most, but there's a lot of uncertainty. We were due to fly Sunday on Etihad. That's now been pushed to Wednesday, but blocks of flights are getting cancelled consistently, so we'll see what happens with that. After that, we might look at flying with another carrier via somewhere else, or flying direct, but the prices seem to be rising.
The airspace around Iran and much of the Middle East has been virtually empty. There have been many cancellations to the region, including from London's airports, affecting thousands of passengers.
These Gulf hubs have become an essential anchor point, really pivotal to 21st century aviation, not least the east-west flows between Europe and Australasia. We're talking about typically 500,000 passengers a day.
Airlines based in the UK and Europe do have to look after passengers and provide accommodation. Others might be able to claim expenses back on travel insurance, although that's not guaranteed.
When you're looking at a conflict that at the moment looks like it may last for, say, a week, even at the moment, and there is a lot of uncertainty, then you can imagine how long it will take to get aircraft back into the right place, crews, pilots in the right place, let alone holidaymakers, of course,
For travellers, the advice is to check with your airline. It also means an anxious wait for many Londoners stuck abroad. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
Well, for the latest travel advice, updates and analysis from the BBC's correspondents on the developing situation in the Middle East, please do go to the BBC News website.